my heart's racing a little bit because as a race director, you don't like to see that. You don't like to think that there's people taking advantage of the system. I like to think the best of people, especially within our community. I always think we belong to a community that's uplifting and encouraging and some of the best individuals out there. And I don't like to think that there are cheaters among us.
I think we should just get into it.
Yeah.
So we have a special announcement this week on the show. So this is actually a new show. It's an evolution of the Aravaipa Trail Talk, which had about 44 episodes.
Yep.
And it started out with me talking to a camera in a blank room. And I don't even know. Actually, the first episode, I think, was all about the Barkley marathons.
It was.
And anyways, we moved on from that. But in this new iteration, we are announcing a new name for the show. And those of you watching on YouTube or other places, we also have a video format of this as well as the audio. But if you can see us, we have a bunch of new equipment, which is exciting. We've got some new microphones and things. Hopefully this sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we're sounding very, very fancy these days.
So the new name of this show, we are going to post this both on Aravaipa and the Run Steep TV YouTube channels. And this is kind of a new, shifting gears a little bit for 2018, but I'm kind of drawing this out. But what is the show going to be called? Do you know?
What is the show going to be called?
You don't want to say it wrong. So the Trail Currents podcast.
Trail Currents.
Yeah. And
it's everything that's making waves within the trail community.
Yep.
And the running community.
So we wanted to devote each show to a topic.
Yep.
We don't know what all those topics are yet, but kind of whatever's going on, whatever is in the public sphere.
Whatever's current.
Yeah, whatever's current, we want to talk about it. And that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is officially episode 1. We're starting over. This is also, I guess, going to be the last episode of Trail Talk, kind of. We're going to post this over there to kind of try and grab some of those listeners and viewers to come on over and join us here. We're also going to have this available on all the different podcast platforms at some point. Hopefully you're listening to that now. Where am I talking about? I wrote so many notes here that I'm going to just kind of digest through these a little bit. Oh, so with the new format of the show, we also have the ability to take on some show partners and sponsors. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
So if you have a organization or a business out there that you'd like to promote through our platform here on this show, please reach out to us. Jubilee at Aravaipa Running or Jamil at Aravaipa Running.
Or on our social platforms at Jamil Coury or at Happy Jubilee.
Yeah. So reach out to us. But our first partner is the lifestyle brand Run Steep, Get High.
Tell us about Run Steep, Get High,
So
Jamil.
This brand was founded in the small town of Silverton, Colorado, which sits up at 9,300 feet and only goes up from there, by Jamil Coury. I don't know who that guy is.
Whoa.
Out of his pursuit and love of mountain running. So basically, inspiration and the pursuit of adventure are things that motivate us to live the Run Steep lifestyle. It's our official tagline. So join the Steep Squad and cop yourself some sweet new gear.
Hey, yeah.
New styles are coming online every couple months, and many of the current styles are just about on closeout. We are wrapping up some of the latest designs we've had and dropping some new ones soon. So you guys can check that out. runsteep.com is where you can go. And use the code TCP15. That stands for Trail Currents Podcast, the TCP.
TCP.
You get 15% off all orders for a limited time, so be sure and check that out. And support Run Steep, and thank you for supporting this show. In reality, we're supporting ourselves here, but we're giving you guys the model.
Hey, there you go.
We do what we can do.
We're doing it. There's no rules.
I think that's my plug, and I think that's our official intro.
Welcome.
Welcome, guys. So a little bit about our hosts. Would you like to tell the lovely audience a little bit about yourself and maybe even provide us with your name?
I mean, here's the thing. On Trail Talk, I was Jubes. Am I still Jubes?
Yeah.
Or am I Jubilee? Either way, my name is Jubilee Paige, and everybody calls me Jubes. I'm a race director for Aravaipa Running. and joined Aravaipa almost two years ago officially, and have since just enjoyed the ride, basically.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know me, Jamil Coury, aka Jam or Jam Jam, and I'm the founder of Aravaipa Running, and just excited to come at you guys with a little bit of a different format here on this show. It's been a fun evolution. We've wanted to do something that starts a conversation and kind of a deep dive into some of these topics. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and we hope that we find a little bit of a niche with our platform here and take our show to the next level. So we're super excited. Should we jump into the show?
Let's do it.
Okay, so for our first Trail Currents topic, this is going to be one that just popped up today. So we had kind of imagined we would do something about the lotteries, since that's been kind of a hot topic lately.
Yeah.
The sport has become so popular that it's hard to get into the races you want to get into. And I was just going through a little bit of a list last night. We're probably going to save this for a future show, but there's like at least 12 or 15 or 20
all of the
100
big
milers.
name races, those bucket list races that you want to run someday may not be able to based on lottery, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where you have 5,000 people applying for Western States, which has a limited spots of 370 starters.
Yeah.
And at least 150 of those spots are already given out to sponsors and volunteer coordinators and elite athletes.
Yeah.
So your average ultra runner that got in after the boom, so to speak, you might just be SOL.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting topic. It's an interesting conversation to see how these different groups and organizations and race directors have decided to give out their limited spots.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it's never going to be a perfect system.
Yeah.
But maybe we can take a look at some of the reasons why maybe there's some things that aren't fair, or it's all subjective, but it's a fun topic to kind of debate regardless, I think.
But we're going to save it for another time.
So we're going to save it because something just came out today.
Something personal, yeah.
Yeah, it hits very close to home because it's something that was exposed at one of our events. And we figured this might be a good platform for us to dive into that a little bit and talk about it, because it affects a lot of us in different ways. And it's a very emotional topic, a heated topic. People get a little bit riled up.
And people have been riled up all day today, actually, because of it.
So let's just get into it. The first topic we're going to talk about is cheating. And that's different than doping, but it's a form of cheating. But basically...
this is all out cheating. This is adjusting your race so that you can either win or qualify.
So there was an article published on Marathon Investigates this morning. It was making the rounds all over social media. And the article was titled "Former Race Winner Disqualified from Across the Years 24-Hour Race." Of course, Across the Years is a race that Aravaipa Running organizes. Yep. And Jubilee is the race director for that race.
And we just had Across the Years this year, a few days ago, last week.
And in fact, we were the ones that disqualified Kelly Agnew. So the subtitle to the article is "Kelly Agnew has claimed victory in 12 fixed-time races. He is a former Boston qualifier and claims multiple FKTs." So this was posted January 9th, 2018 by Derek Murphy on his site at marathoninvestigation.com. If you're not familiar with his site, he is kind of an advocate, or I don't know, how would you describe it? Basically, he seeks out cheaters at races, from road races to trail runs to ultras, and does his research and posts what he finds out publicly, and he has a large following. His Facebook page has, I think, close to 12,000 followers, and oftentimes pretty much all the time, you'll see his articles cross-posted all over Facebook in this day and age. So the information reaches far and wide, and it has rippling effects.
Yeah.
So, and I think that catches some people off guard. Some people like the fact that there is something like this. Some people are a little disturbed and they think that I've seen some people upset with the guy posting it, which
it makes people feel uneasy to talk about cheating or to even think that there's cheating going on within the sport, which is sad, but it happens. And at least we have someone who is able to raise their voice, for that cause.
So to recap a little bit of the article, it says he first entered the ultra running scene in 2010, and he's been running all the way through. Mm-hmm. He has attended across the years several times. He's run several other of our races with Aravaipa Running over the years, including the Javelina 100, the Adrenaline Night Runs, Coldwater Rumble, Sinister Night Runs, like quite a few events. We've come to know Kelly pretty well over the years.
And he's done well. He's done well in all of those events.
He's done very well. He won the 2014 across the years, the 48-hour with over 200 miles. And he went on to win the race a couple of different times.
Yeah.
And this year he was entered in the 24-hour. Wow, where do we go from here? I think some people might be curious to know maybe more of the details about the disqualification and maybe some of our suspicions ahead of time as well.
We were tipped off originally or earlier this year.
I don't know that I want to say how we were tipped off, but we were tipped off that he was that we should keep an eye on Kelly, and so we definitely did that, and we hired a race timer this year for the race across the years. Mike Melton of MCM Timing out of Florida, who, by the way, is absolutely amazing stand-up professional timer. He takes his job very seriously. It's not just a job for him. It's a passion. He loves the sport.
Yep.
He's a race director himself.
Yep.
And he's been doing this for, I think, 25 years.
Yeah.
He had a active timing ankle transponder on all runners, as well as chips on the bib as well. Two chips on the bib that runners are required to wear around their waist at all times. In addition to the timing point at the start finish line, there was a remote timing point halfway around the loop. The loop is about 1.05 miles. It's at Camelback Ranch in either Phoenix or Glendale, Arizona.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing. But it's where the Dodgers and the White Sox have their spring training grounds.
Yeah.
Beautiful course. And the 24-hour race that kicked off on December 31st is the one that Kelly was part of. And I think I kind of forgot he was going to be out there, honestly. And then I was out about 2 hours in or so. I was starting to water down the track.
You were watering the course. I think I was taking photos and had done a lap and then came back to talk with Mike.
So I basically pulled up with my truck with a water trailer to spray down the start finish area. I have like a hose and start up the generator and start spraying down. And I saw Kelly walking towards me, and the runners were going in the opposite direction. And I was like, oh yeah, Kelly's here. Like, and the fact that he was walking towards me, like maybe towards the bathrooms or the parking lot, I was like, need to watch what's going on here. So
and you texted me, I think, at the time as well.
I think I did. And I spent about the next probably half hour, I would water a section, I'd move the truck up 50 feet or yards, and then I would do it again and again and again. And I kind of lost track of Kelly there for a minute. I wasn't sure that I saw him go back past me.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a little bit weird to me. And then, saw him come around a couple more times, but I was just thinking to myself, well, I'm doing a lot of things. I should alert Mike. And so I went and checked in with him. I first off just was curious if all of his laps were hitting, especially on the remote side. Because if he had somehow skipped a lap already, it would show up. It wouldn't show up on the reverse, the backside of the course.
Right.
So he took a look. He's like, oh, he looks good. About 12 miles down. Everything looks normal. But that was just the start finish timing mats.
Right.
And I said, well, is there a way you can live check the remotes? He's like, yeah. And he had to go over to another computer. So I kept doing what I was doing. He went to check it. And he came back to me a little bit later. He's like, interesting. It showed the first 12 and then it didn't show at least one lap, if not more.
It was the first 1 through 10, and then the 11th lap missed. And then a couple more went by, and then the 14th lap missed.
So there's kind of a little bit of a pattern developing after the 10th lap.
Yeah. And
so once he saw that, he said he was going to keep a close watch on him, because he was like, how's that possible? Or he actually originally was like, well, maybe he didn't wear his bib.
Yeah.
Because the one on the remote side was just the one around the waist, but it was hitting every single time at the main, and everyone else was hitting on the far side. He was like instantly giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you should really look a little bit more into this. And we'll talk more about the previous editions of ATY next. But I went off to water the far side of the track, and Mike, to just kind of like get out of the area, so maybe Kelly would just do what he was doing, and I wasn't even there, so it wasn't suspicious. And so Mike was just watching Kelly, and I had tipped him off because I saw Kelly, I think it might have been maybe lap 14 or something, where he circled back around the tent and like went to go do something.
Right.
And it just I don't know where he goes. I didn't know. I just kind of suspected that there's like a tent across from the finish line. There's tents on each side of the start finish. So and that's where everyone camps, and there's like camping tents and all of those sorts of things. So you can there's
kind of like a Main Street ATY. Like there's tents on both sides, and
so all the race stuff is on one side, everyone else's personal stuff's on the other side. So I think he has like a tent set up over there. Like people all the time go off the course, and they go and they change their shoes, or they get more food, or
they go to their tent to rest, or they go to the warming tent, or they step off the course all the time.
It's very common in fixed times races. That's the thing. It's you go as you please. You can do whatever you want, kind of, as long as you
resume the course
where you left off. Yeah, in the direction you're going.
Correct.
So Mike was keeping an eye on Kelly, and he saw him go around the back side of the tent, or actually go look at the screen around the back side of the tent, and then head over and go into the restroom.
Yeah. Where
he proceeded to stay for what Mike reports on this article and what he reported to us for 7 minutes.
7 months, yeah.
He timed it. He looked at his watch. He's in the portable restroom for 7 minutes, pops out, records another lap.
Yep.
Without running the lap.
Without circling around the whole course.
And
he stopped at the monitors, went around the tents, stopped at the Johns, recorded another lap.
Yeah. So he did a short loop, maybe 50-yard loop or less,
possibly
reversed slightly,
but still within like his
normal pace,
like a recorded pace, like what he would normally record. So he had that timed out. So
if you didn't have a remote timing point and you just looked at the data, it would look perfect.
Right.
So at this point, did I alert you, or were you already over there?
So I had come back, I think, from taking photos from that morning. And I stay out there until people maybe do 2 or 3 laps, so I can get multiple shots of everyone on the course. On a 1 mile course, that's really easy to do. You stay out there for 30, 40 minutes and you get everybody twice. And I had come back and immediately said hello to Mike, and he was kind of standing, and he was like, I'm waiting for Kelly to come out of the bathrooms. He's like, I know exactly how he does this. He's already recorded a pattern. I've watched him do this. This is how it's done. And kind of explained the whole process to me. And I had texted you then that we were waiting for Kelly, and that you should probably stop watering the track and come to the start-finish line. And sure enough, I think you showed up maybe 5 minutes later, and Kelly emerged from the restrooms.
So you were there when he came out, and when Mike witnessed it.
Right. So then he had come out past the timing mats in for another lap, and I think he had somebody running with him at the time. So then we pulled him aside the lap after that.
What was going through your head when you had to pull him off course for witnessing cheating. I mean, how did that feel?
Awful. That felt awful to me. My heart's racing a little bit because as a race director, you don't like to see that. You don't like to be able, you don't like to witness that. You don't like to think that there's people taking advantage of the system. And, I like to think the best of people, especially within our community. I always think, we belong to a community that's uplifting and encouraging and some of the best individuals out there. And I don't like to think that there are cheaters among us, but, so that felt kind of awful, really. But, I knew that it was necessary, and I knew that it blatantly was evident. As Mike said, there was no way for him to mistakenly go around the tents and mistakenly go into the porta potty and forget that he missed an entire lap. It was very evident that this was a pattern occurring, that he would record 2 legitimate laps and skip a lap. So, yeah, he came around. I pulled him aside and told him there were discrepancies within his lap reads, that we weren't recording his back laps. And you had stepped in as well, saying that we had eyewitnesses to him skipping the laps, going around the tents, and it is without mistake that he was cheating and that we would have to disqualify him. So. Yeah.
And it was a hard, I'm like right now a little bit like,
are you a little,
I'm feeling it a little bit because it's
uncomfortable. It really is.
It's a confrontation as a race director that it's something you don't want to have. Like you don't want to have to do. And it kind of, it sets you a little bit on edge. But like, it really upsets me to know that like there's someone cheating and it's not fair to anyone else. And I don't tolerate that. Like
no,
none of us should tolerate
absolutely,
that.
And it is not tolerated. So, it's without question that we did the right thing by pulling him aside and sending him away.
And the interesting thing for me was that he tried to make it seem like he didn't really know what was going on, or that I think one of the things
it was a real quick reaction of, I didn't know that I was supposed to cross the mat in the back every time.
Which is not possible. Like, he's won this race before. There's been remote timing mats in the back before, and it's the shortest part of the course, and you would have to go out of your way to miss that mat.
You have to go out of your way because it's coned on either side. So they're very evident that you have to cross those mats in the back, unless you go like way on the other side of the track.
So he tried to make a couple excuses.
I changed my shoes. I had to go to my tent.
I think I just was basically like, no, like we know.
No, we saw you. We have eyewitness.
Yeah.
This is what you've done. We'll have to say goodbye.
And have we need your chip and your bib. And that was pretty much it.
After that, there was no argument.
He pretty much just handed his stuff in and went to went to get his things basically, I think, or went to see his wife. So, there wasn't really much more of a fight because I think he knew at that point that we had figured it out.
Yeah. But there's no excuse, really. There's no excuse that, offhand that you can come up with to explain that pattern of sitting in the restroom for 7 minutes and then crossing the mat.
Well, and it goes beyond this. Like, this isn't our first time hearing about Kelly doing this.
Right.
And we had to further go back and look at some of our data from our past years, and we figured out that he had actually done this before.
Right.
And so we
have the data, the remote data.
We didn't comb through it like we probably should have in the past. Things escape us. And I think that we mostly had that remote, we had the remote timing point before, because like, we're like, oh yeah, we don't want anyone cheating, but we didn't really think that anyone was actually going to be cheating,
right.
Especially at a fixed time event where what good does it do? Does it matter? Like, does it matter if you win or if you do 5 miles?
Right.
To us, it doesn't matter. Like, we love the whole community, and we're proud of everyone that does
whatever
anything.
Miles you do. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard to imagine this happening, and especially the intimate environment of such a small fixed time event.
You get to know everybody on the track.
You're out there for hours and days
Absolutely.
with these people.
You're suffering together. Yeah.
And just to think that, that activity was happening where, especially at night, it gets really easy
Absolutely.
to skip laps because the timers are tired.
Everyone's
tired. There's not a lot of people out there to even witness anything weird. And you could just, go, I don't even know, I guess stand in the porta potty for 10 minutes.
You could go to your tent
and just cross the mat and then
go to your
sneak
tent,
off into the dark.
Sleep for 20 minutes, come back and cross the mat again. And, there's not a lot of people on the course to catch you at that time in the middle of the night. That's why we put in remote timing to kind of be a safeguard against that.
Yeah. And that's a little bit of a lesson for us, is to actually dive into that data.
Right.
So we found out that this was happening before. And so we retroactively also disqualified him from previous editions of the race. We unfortunately don't have all the data from our other events to conclusively do anything. But I was actually tipped off before last year's race about Kelly. But I wasn't able to get the absolute proof that I was this year, unfortunately. But
we've been looking into
last year I did a reverse lap at one point in the evening when he was out there. And that was kind of the first time I saw something where he's heading out one way on a loop, I'm walking in reverse, and I'm saying hi to every single person.
Right.
And so I expect at my pace versus his to see him probably twice.
Right.
And I didn't see him at all.
Yeah.
And then I came back to the start finish, and then I saw him run by again. Yeah. And I was like, that's weird. Like, what happened? Where did he go? I don't know. I didn't understand it at the time.
It was the same way, while I'm out there taking photographs, I'm out there for 40 minutes to an hour. I should be able to see everyone at least twice. And combing through my photos, even from this year, I didn't have a single photo.
That's odd.
I didn't have
That's
a single
crazy.
photo of Kelly.
Wow.
Which, I make sure to take a photo of everybody. Yeah. I have thousands to comb through.
So ultimately, this is a shocking thing for us. Go ahead.
How do you feel? Like, considering that,
I considered him a friend or an acquaintance, I'm more than an acquaintance. Like, I consider him, I've sat and had beers with him before, and he's been at so many of our events and seemed like such an integral part of the community.
Right.
And so you feel betrayed in a sense, but also, when I first was tipped off to this and I kind of found out that he may have been doing this at our events, I was angry.
Yeah.
I was very upset. And I was like,
were you angry at the news, or were you angry at the person? Were you like,
I was angry.
I can't believe
I was angry at him.
Oh, okay.
I was angry that he would do this, and just that a cheater would be out there doing this.
Right.
Because I love the sport. Yeah. And I love everything about it. And I think it's a good thing. And I don't want this in our sport, like no one does. It's not
fair, but it doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't serve anybody, especially it doesn't serve, the individual who is cheating and winning. This is a pretty niche sport as it is. And then what are you really earning within, I think Mike called it like a sliver of a slice of the sport. Like, there's running, and then there's a slice of ultra running, and then there's this tiny sliver of multi-day fixed time events, where people don't, really know, and or care. We care in our community, but how many heads are you going to turn when you're like, I'm a 6-day or a 24-hour champion within the 6-day race?
It's definitely smaller, but it's, I don't know. He's able to obtain several sponsors and have some notoriety as being, a winner of many events, and some that are held in very high esteem in the fixed time community. Yeah. And it's upsetting. And
I would think even more so for you though, because, this is a personal, Kelly, and that he's been running your races for X amount of years. So this is almost,
I mean, once you go through the emotions, like, originally I was upset. And then having the experience of witnessing it this year and having to disqualify him, and ultimately knowing that, like, the ramifications of going, public with something like that.
Right.
It's not something that I wanted to do necessarily, although I do feel somewhat of a duty to people. It was made public by Marathon Investigation, which, we could have put something out there in the world. We chose not to do that, but we chose to inform other race directors that this was going on. Because what you see right now on social media is another interesting thing to talk about. A lot of people who don't know him, it's easy to crucify him and to say a lot of nasty things about him.
But within the fixed time community, there's, people know each other, but it's very close-knit community.
What you're seeing is a lot of shock from people right now. Like, I've been reading a lot of the comments throughout the day.
There's a lot of people who are sad because, they know him as a friend.
That's the other thing is, and that's what I feel now is I feel sadness for him. And it's weird because I'm trying to figure out, why? Like, why would you do it? And eventually it will catch up to you if you're cheating. I mean, it was only a matter of time. I mean, and it's interesting too because there's so many people that I feel like are coming out now and saying, like, that they've witnessed him cheating in person at events dating back 7-8 years. Like, this is not new, and
it's curious that it's on lapped events. It's not. If you look at any point to point or out and back, it's, he's a pretty mid of the pack runner.
That was one of the things that when we were tipped off, like when there is more of I guess a race that's harder to cheat at, he doesn't do as well. But when there's a fixed time event, he's almost always winning it. Yeah. Setting course records.
He's excelling.
And that was a little bit odd. And now it makes a lot of sense. Where it's easier to do something like that. But he was also cheating at these point-to-point races or the out and back races too.
The out and back, the Leadville, which was news to me. I actually didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I thought all of his other ones were legitimate. Yeah. But it sounds like even some of those are in question now. And the one that I thought of lately through all this was his white rim FKT?
The FKT.
Because I remember him doing that, and then when I heard the accusations, I was thinking, well, I wonder what was going on there. Yeah. Because no one's out there. Like, just like we saw with the TransCon.
Well,
you can just hop in a car and go at 4 miles per hour. Right. Because part of that was on dirt roads. So
you can announce that you're doing it. You can record it with your Garmin.
You could even he might even have a good Strava for that one, right? But it might have been taking a ride in a car for some of it, and creeping along at a running pace. It's possible. It's kind of crazy.
But there's a lot of, and the thing that gets me is there's a lot of thought and a lot of effort that goes into this level of cheating. To meticulously count, this is my pace, this is what is expected. I have to sit in a bathroom for 7 minutes. Like, there's 10 minutes that I have to take off the course and sit in a restroom for 7 minutes.
And be constantly looking over your shoulder.
Absolutely.
And, to feel that way.
To make sure that, you didn't see the same person coming out of the Johns as you saw when you went into the Johns. Like, oh gosh, maybe I need to go back in. Like, having some intestinal problems or something. I'll see you later. And wait for that person to leave. Or it's just, there's a lot of effort and a lot of just thought that goes into that. And I think, when I was out there at ATY, I had done the math and thinking, if he's doing 100 plus or 140, what he had done previously in the 24 hours, if he's doing those kind of miles, or he's recording those kind of miles, then he's spending upwards of 4 to 5 hours in the bathroom, sitting there.
It's pretty wild.
That's a lot. That's a lot of hours.
I mean, maybe it's kind of bittersweet thing. Like, if you're going to be cheating, then you get to, it's like his penalty box. But,
right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to joke too much, but
you got to think, like, it just gets me. And even like if it's an FKT or if it's a point to point out and back, you know, the effort and it takes to go and do that. If you transfer that effort into actual training and running, it would be maybe a different story. But that's what makes it sad for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately, that's the emotion I'm feeling now, is just sadness. Whereas earlier I wanted to just maybe out him and I got excited about that. I mean, he's fully outed at this point. I mean, it is all over Facebook. I don't know how many shares it currently has, but it was shared on every single. It just seemed like it was popping up one post after the other all over Facebook.
And
today.
Everybody has an opinion, and everybody is kind of chiming in about, you know, whether they knew him or, you know, whether like they've seen this also happen with other people within the sport, you know, and that just it's just kind of a bummer all around.
Trying to pull up his original post here on Marathon Investigates to see, but I saw it shared on just a lot of ultra running groups and pages, and a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork too with those stories of seeing him doing something like this before. So ultimately, I mean, it's definitely a mixed emotion. It's a relief that hopefully the cheating will stop. I mean, I don't know that he's going to be allowed to run any more races, you know.
I mean, as far as Aravaipa goes,
definitely not.
No.
And I know of other races that have also disqualified him and are not going to be inviting him back to run in their events. But I mean, with how widespread this is, I think there's a lot of other directors that aren't going to let him run either with this information.
I mean, would it change? You know, it's difficult to say because, you know, your brains are kind of wired differently when you're okay with that level of cheating for so long. I mean, this has been happening for years. So we haven't really seen any kind of, you know, step forward to apologize or any kind of remorse. You know,
it doesn't feel like there's any remorse.
It doesn't.
I mean, if you do it this long and if you're willing to do it in front of people that care about you, but there's got to be something going on. Like, I don't know the psychology behind it, but
I mean,
obviously
we
there's
can't
obviously, and that's, I think, why I'm sad is because, you know, maybe he has some sort of hurt or pain or something in his life that makes, you know, him more likely to do this.
We can't rationalize it on our side because it's not, you know, a rational thing, but you know, he thinks about it differently.
Definitely. And that's the thing that we all have our problems though in life, I think.
Absolutely.
It may not be cheating at running, but it might be something else.
I mean, especially within the ultra community, like we all have our issues, and that's a lot of us, you know, why
but
we
just
run.
us as humans too.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the biggest thing that is hard to see about the online stuff, because people can be so visceral and they don't look at themselves. I'm not excusing in any way Kelly's actions here, but just thinking about he's still a human, and showing a little bit of compassion for his situation.
Within like the social realm though, like it's really easy to type a comment and send it out there and not even think about
to throw some hate. And that, I can't imagine what he's going through right now. I mean, he's brought it upon himself 100%. It's the culmination of years. But
at the end of the day, it's a choice that he's made.
And the fact that this, you know, he's been confronted before by people about his actions and still has not changed or apologized. And that's the biggest thing, where it's hard to wrap your head around that. And it does make me feel, I guess, a little bit of less sympathy for him, but still,
I mean, do you think if he came forward and he did apologize and he's trying to make amends for these actions, you know, would the community re-embrace that and say, you know, okay, what you did was wrong, but we forgive? Do you think that, he would be allowed into the racing community again? Would he be trusted on the trails and on the tracks again?
It's very interesting because how do we treat people that are caught doping?
Right.
Everyone is out there with pitchforks calling for lifetime bans. How is this different? I mean, this is cheating. Doping is cheating. Like, this should be no different than that. If we did see an apology, a sincere apology, I'd like to think that we can.
I mean, would you be able to trust him again as an RD or as a?
I mean, trust is something that's built up over time.
Right.
Like, we can give trust, I think, to most people that just run a race. Like, that's a low level of trust, but no. I would not trust him. Could that be built again?
Right.
Potentially. The first step would be probably start with an apology and showing some remorse for what was done and try to make amends with all of the people and the companies and competitors that have been wronged.
Right.
In reality, there are people that didn't get to stand on a podium and didn't get their heyday and didn't get to put that win on their resume that he did, and maybe were passed over for a sponsorship opportunity or an accolade or just feeling good about their performance when they were a quote unquote clean athlete,
Right.
It's sad, and he robbed them of that moment. But until he realizes that and thinks about the other people in the situation and shows us as a community that he does feel bad for that, then, the ball, I guess, is in his court. But yeah, on another hand,
likeliness of that happening.
It's not likely because he continues to do it even after being confronted with the situation by multiple people. He continues to do it. And if that's just how he lives his life, then he's just not going to be welcome to be in the running community, which is, it is sad, but also it's like, I'm closer to him than someone who just doesn't know him.
Right.
And that's why it's easy to as someone from the outside, I'm sure it's easy to just dismiss him. But
do you think we'll see a trend now that, like, because this is so big, because it was such a prominent example of this kind of cheating, do you think within the community more RDs will step up and say, okay, I've been tipped off about this person, or I have kind of a suspicion about this other person? Do you think we'll see more of these stories kind of come to light?
I think we could, definitely. There was suspicions about Kelly for a while, so there might be stuff out there right now, I'm sure. Yeah. Every community has their own. This isn't an isolated thing.
No.
You read Marathon Investigates, the website, and some of their latest stories, Honolulu Marathon continues to side with cheaters. Philadelphia Marathon results still include many highly suspicious times. There's a lot of people that want to take a shortcut. Especially with the qualifying times.
Is it easy to cheat at marathons? Like, for maybe say, I want to go and get a Boston qualifier. I'm a 6-hour marathoner, and I'm going to go all of a sudden and
you see multiple kinds of cheating. You see multiple kinds of cheating. So sometimes other people will run with the bib. I think there might even be like people that pay people, like services, will run your BQ for you. Like, what?
I'll tag in and say,
like, I'll just wear your bib.
Like, I'm going to go and here's my ID. I'm going to pick up
pick up your bib and then you give it to someone else.
And you just give it to someone else.
Like, people have been caught doing that because they want to get the Boston qualifier. Yeah, they want to get their Boston qualifier and they are not fast enough and they want to run the race, so they do that.
And race photos aren't like...
Oh, no. There's tens of thousands of people running marathons.
Yeah.
The marathons a lot of times don't have this at the top of their priority list to go back and comb through. That's why the marathon investigation guy does this. He's a watchdog and he combs through and looks for suspicious times, then investigates and looks at the photos and builds cases around these people. I think what we will see, hopefully, is more race directors implementing remote timing points and collecting more data where we
to make
can
it difficult.
Yeah, we make it harder. Yeah. And taking action, not being complicit. Actually,
if you have a rule against cheating, or if you have a rule against, cutting the course, then you enforce the rule.
If you have data,
you don't make exceptions for friends or people that you've known, for years who've run your race.
Exactly.
Which is, and that's always a difficult thing.
It's hard. You have to confront them. And that's what we went through. I mean, we had to confront someone that we knew well and stop them from running, and tell them they were caught. And it was
uncomfortable. It was.
It is. It's a confrontation. I mean, everyone I think has varying levels of comfortability with doing that, but you have to take a stand for the sport and for the legitimacy of it's for everyone else's benefit.
Absolutely.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we will see hopefully more race directors taking a look at their times and listening to their runners too, because a lot of the other runners see it because they're competing. Maybe they're competing in the same age group and they're like, wait a minute, something doesn't add up here.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times how this stuff is found out is there's other runners on the course. The person that was robbed of the win, they know a lot of times that, hey, how did they get ahead of me?
Wait, I've busted my butt.
Yeah.
During this entire race, I've been out here for hours. I'm suffering just as much, but this person doesn't seem, I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah, definitely sad. Whew. Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? It was a heck of a topic for the first episode.
What other things would what else should we touch on?
I mean, we can kind of go through, some of the comments.
Yeah, that would be good, I think.
I was reading through, running against time is great for the fixed time community. And that was one of the biggest things on their feed today. Everybody reposted this. Everybody had a comment.
So we're going to jump into, I think we're going to look at some Facebook stuff, aren't we?
Yeah.
We just want to take a little bit of a look and see what the chatter is out there. What are people talking about? What are people saying?
What are they saying? What are their opinions on this matter? I mean, it's kind of interesting that you go through, people are posting blog posts that he had posted years ago from the very beginning, when he started winning his very first 24 or 48 hour races, from 2013, 2014.
I think that's the other thing too that was quite interesting here is he had a very public persona.
Yeah, he was a blogger. He's a blogger.
He's a blogger and prolific. And he went to a lot of lengths, it seems like, to go into detail with his race reports. And I think that's what makes it even harder for a lot of people to understand and believe. Oh, he had such a detailed report. There's no way he could have been cheating because he didn't write about that. But what's happened today, I think, or recently, is a lot of his things have been taken down. Apparently,
yeah,
that's what I've been reading. You can still pull some of them up as archived posts.
Oh, a lot of them, and that's the thing. People are finding them archived, in the here and there within the internet, and posting them and reposting them. In 2013, I came to run 200 miles and win, and I did. And now people are looking at, dude, this guy was kind of arrogant in his quest, automatically knowing that he was going to win this event with no question.
Yeah, and that's ultimately sad. Him knowing, that is such an advantage if you're in the daytime only running if you're skipping a mile every 3 miles.
Yeah.
You're going to be so much fresher later.
Absolutely.
And then at night, skipping sometimes hours worth of laps and just coming through and recording a lap, but not making a full time around. So I don't know, in a given race, running maybe only 60% or 70% of what you think.
Yeah.
It's just such an unfair advantage that it's insane.
A lot of people are comparing this to PEDs and performance enhancing drugs, and
I mean, this is way more effective
that's
than
what they're
doping.
saying. Like, yeah, which is, you know, which is even more.
Well, and doping is such a hot topic. Like, everyone hates doping so bad. This is worse.
This is right out. Like,
because doping, you're
I'm not running the race.
A lot of times in doping, you're
winning.
like getting these incremental gains in recovery that allows you to train harder so that you can have a better performance. And it's like, oh, yeah, what about skipping an aid station?
Right.
Or like skipping a few laps? Well, that's just a whole nother level.
This hit really pretty fast, and a lot of his results already have changed and retroactively been removed.
On Ultra Sign Up?
On Ultra Sign Up. Yeah.
So even more events are maybe even just, I don't know what.
When the gender place field has been changed to 0 immediately. Or listed as DQs.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if they have data that they've since pulled, or if they just,
or they're just
because
taking it as
a sign that if he's running a fixed time event, he's skipping laps. Like that, I would pretty much assume that to be true. I don't know. It's like once you get the taste of that win or something, or that thrill of it, and I don't know if that is it.
And
like
maybe
he gets a thrill out of knowing that he's gonna, or it's like a game.
He's gonna walk away with a championship, or
if he just
award,
plays the game right.
And maybe there's a thrill to it. Maybe there's something exciting about that.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to hear from him if he made some sort of a public statement. Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of us, an apology would at least humanize him more for a lot of us and show something.
I mean, that's what a lot of people are saying.
He's not going to be welcome back in the community, at least anytime soon. And I mean, if he was ever permitted to run a race again anywhere, I'm sure he would. Right. He would be watched like a hawk. But it is interesting because it's like, or maybe he should just be banned for life. I don't know.
I mean,
it's hard for me because I'm conflicted because I know him and
right.
I have this emotional sadness, but that doesn't excuse anything. And that's maybe a lot of times what cheaters bank on, is they bank on that
personal relationship with the RD.
If you make a personal relationship with
right.
people, they're not going to out you, or they're going to
do you a favor, or they're going to just forget it this one time, or
be more apt to believe the excuses
right.
as well. Because
like,
he tried to make it seem like we didn't know, or
right.
that he was just apologetic, but it just wasn't true.
I think I remember asking Mike Melton, I couldn't believe that this was happening, and I couldn't believe that, that there were instances like this. And I was like, you don't come across this often, do you? And he said, actually, no, this happens quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah. He said, you'd be surprised that, there are several people who try to skip the remotes, or, they watch, as people cut the course in some way or another.
Yeah, so we just implemented some more remote timing points at some of our other races.
Yeah.
Just starting with Javelina this year. We had one person, a runner with us, that I believe it was like 2 or 3 of the laps did not record it. We had a timing point at the start finish and at Jackass Junction, which is about halfway around the 20-mile loop.
Yep.
And like the first couple ones were just normal.
Yep.
And then missed at Jackass Junction like 2 or 3 times in a row. Was it something like that?
Yeah.
And
it was enough to say.
And like every other runner had hit all 5. This
Absolutely.
was the only instance that any remotes were missed.
Right.
And it was like multiple of them, and recorded a finish time. We reached out to the runner, emailed them and said, hey, we have a discrepancy. We proactively did this.
Yes.
Like within the week of the race.
Yes.
Because it's a Western States qualifier.
Absolutely.
And didn't get a response from the runner.
Said show us your Strava, or
show us
GPS, show us anything that proves that you hit that remote. And we got nothing.
So disqualified him.
Yeah.
So, and I
and
think,
didn't hear anything back.
and never heard, just radio silence. So, I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the fact that we found someone that cheated. In all likelihood, they didn't try and save themselves or say there was a mistake, or because their bib kept hitting at the main area. It kept recording. It didn't have any excuse like, oh, I wore a huge jacket or I don't know what. And they're out there.
I mean, that's another thing. When you catch a cheater and they don't say anything, you've DQ'd them. You've said, you're not going to receive any results. And they don't say anything to contest it.
They've just been figured out, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on right now, too. And I don't know if he's formulating some sort of a response publicly, but some people, I think, they're so shocked that they haven't heard anything that they're waiting for something from him. But the fact that there's just silence and there's just deleting of posts, it's pretty apparent.
I mean, if it was legitimate, like, you could prove it almost immediately. Oh, no, I've earned these legit. You'd be able to show us something.
I think most people, they're
whatever.
obsessed with the timing mat. So, like, did you get me?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you get my split? And
well, that's the thing. Like, in the middle of the night, maybe like third or fourth night, it's 2:00 in the morning. Mike is sleeping. It's me and Bill Schultz sitting there, and we have dozens of people going, "Hey, it's not beeping in the back. I just want to make sure you got me. It's not beeping. I passed it. It didn't beep." And sure enough, the power had like blown back there for like an hour or two. And Mike came in and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's why it's not beeping." Like, people tell us if their laps are not recording, they are like adamant about stopping at the monitor, making sure that their lap recorded. Okay, I'm good. Going on, making sure it beeps in the back when they cross it. They want to be recorded for every single step, every lap that they do. So, when somebody comes by, "Oh, I'm not sure if it beeped, or I didn't know I was supposed to cross the mat." No, people know. They know. They want to be recorded.
How do you feel as a race director going forward with all of this? Do you think it's right to out cheaters publicly? Do you think that will help deter people?
I hope so. I mean, it wasn't our plan to publicly oust anyone. But, with the way social media is now, any kind of hint or, a DSQ at the bottom of results will raise questions, and people start chattering. And within, a day or a couple days after the event, Twitter, Facebook, whatever is going to be picked up. People start talking about it, and it just kind of organically happens. So, I don't want to crucify anyone who comes to our events and is caught cheating. But at the same time, I do hope that, they understand if anybody's going to try to cheat at one of our events or at, another event that has remote timing, just know that it's going to be much more difficult. And I would hope it would deter cheaters.
Yeah, cheaters, don't come to Aravaipa, because we will find you.
Yeah. And it's, and
we're watching.
I think it's a good thing, when we say we have no tolerance. We have no tolerance for cheaters. It does no one any good. It doesn't do you any good. There's no glory in it, and that kind of thing comes back around. I really do believe that.
What do you think? They have a banned list for dopers from United States Anti-Doping Agency. Like, does there need to be a United States Anti-Cheating Agency where if there is proof that you've cheated, that you get you get a 2-year ban? I mean,
is it lifetime ban? Is it 2-year ban?
Yeah.
Is there
well, that's the thing. Like, we have it
there?
for doping, but cheating is this type of cheating, or you take a ride in a car. That could be way more effective. And
I mean,
how is it different, really? Like,
even with marathons, major marathons,
yes.
Chicago, LA, whatever it is to get to the Boston qualifier, if you're hitching a ride for 10 miles out of your 26 and you're getting a sub 3:30 time.
Or someone else is running with your bib on.
Or somebody's running with your bib on and you get caught. Are you allowed to run again?
But without these public outings, how are we to know? Like, maybe Kelly has been disqualified from a race before and we just don't know about it.
Maybe we weren't paying attention until we were tipped off.
And that, no public entity like Marathon Investigation picked it up before.
Right.
And maybe that would have been true for us too. Like, if we hadn't publicly said stuff and just kind of let it sit and let a couple other like fixed time event race directors know, maybe he would still be running and winning races somewhere. So it does drive an interesting part of the conversation.
Yeah, do we keep it as an isolated event and, we hold on to it and...
Because in reality, I think there should be something like that. If you are caught cheating, there should be a banned list, I think, or it's some sort of whether it's a 1 year or a 2 year ban or something.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's different than doping in terms of cheating. And there's probably other forms of cheating too that you could go into, but without, I don't know what organization would even take that on other than currently, I guess it's just
right.
Like I know there's a race director group on Facebook and there's chatter on there, but it took until there was chatter actually about Kelly on there before without using his name. There was a post that, hey, there's cheating going on, but names were not dropped.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that RDs are so maybe hesitant to not drop a name, or if they think or they suspect that, this person is cheating, why don't they discuss that with RDs? Hey, this is what I'm thinking. I don't know if it's true. Keep an eye out. The only reason that we did was because we were tipped off, hey, you should probably watch this person.
Yeah, I think it's number one, it's hard. And number two, I think just a lot of the people that are in the sport love it so much and they get to know everyone, and it's hard. It's hard to
You
confront.
don't want to think about.
You don't want to think about outing someone and all the backlash that is getting up. You don't want to see that. I don't hard
like
to see that.
No,
and
I don't. Yeah.
I'm not excusing him in any way, but to take all that hate that's probably a lot to take in. I don't know what he's going through right now, and that's the humanity part of it, the compassion that I feel like is still important to think about. There's like two things. There's the emotional part, and then there's also the, well, hey, he's a known cheater, we don't want him on course because it's not fair.
But, I think there is some kind of responsibility between RDs. If you suspect someone, to be able to share that information and kind of go forward as a community and, stop that.
Yeah, I mean, currently, and it's more important probably in the marathon qualifying world, it seems like it's pretty rampant.
Yeah.
That it goes on.
There's
and no one
thousands
besides
of people that qualify every year.
There's not a lot of people that are looking into this, and there's no centralized body that has this as a pillar of like they're worrying about it.
Right.
They're worried about doping, and we're doing all this out of competition testing and all kinds of things, which I think is
But we're not doing
important.
anything about remote timing where you can step across the start line and take a break for 3 hours and then step back across the start line.
People
there's no check and balance there.
People are, they're currently ahead of the system right now.
Right.
They're ahead of the safeguards in place, and they're staying ahead of the slow distribution of information on who's doing this too.
Right.
The fact that it took this long for someone like Kelly to be caught and I guess publicly banned, because at this point I can't imagine anyone allowing him to run an ultramarathon.
I mean, as far as Aravaipa Running goes, no.
Yeah, we can't speak for anyone else, but I'm just saying there's a lot of race directors that now know of him.
Correct.
That probably don't want him in their race.
And certainly, within the fixed time community, any RD who runs a multi-day or fixed time 24-hour event probably will not invite him back to their event. I don't know if there's any kind of resolution that's come out of it as far as, what do we do in the future? We won't have any tolerance for any future cheaters within our organization, but
when we're working
it's really interesting, the fact that, the marathon world and even the ultra running world, there's not a discussion more about like people cutting the course.
Well, and we are already being more proactive about it. I actually didn't check. Well, we had a race this last weekend, another one, and our remote timing we had a couple timing issues on our end, so we didn't get to fully look at the data, but that's definitely one of our main priorities in 2018 is getting those remote timing points out on course, not just for this cheating aspect, but I think taking some time to analyze the data afterwards and to see,
before we post the results,
hey, these two people, they missed this checkpoint,
right?
Or these two checkpoints, and like all of a sudden they had a really fast split and they moved into the lead.
Right.
Where did that come from? Stuff like that, I think, is definitely something that we're going to be looking into.
A lot of our races are looped races, but even like for the point-to-points, having multiple checkpoints, as something like Black Canyon, where it's a Western States qualifier. Not only that, it's a golden ticket race. So it's important to be able to collect a sufficient amount of data and making sure that all of those results are legitimate.
And I know that a lot of the big races over in Europe do this already. And even in Asia, they'll have checkpoints all over the place. And they'll even have unannounced ones randomly out there too. And I would love to implement that. That would be super fun so that people aren't just expecting, I just got to hit all the aid stations. Hey, there's going to be someone else out there randomly possibly.
Right.
I know that UTMB in their back room where they have their command center, they have someone specifically, like a computer and a person specifically looking for abnormalities in the race data. And that's super interesting to me, where they have a dedicated person that is literally looking for cheaters.
And that's thousands of runners.
Well, they have about 8,000 runners, so I'm sure that, they find people.
Of course.
I doubt they publicly say anything.
Well, I don't think they would have a dedicated person looking for that unless they experienced it or, it had been a precedent set. So, they've put that in place.
So, we don't live in the happy, bubbly world that we thought we did, I guess.
I like to think that we live in a happy bubble world. And, I live in a world with bubbles, but it bums you out to kind of face reality and to face the truth that, not everybody appreciates and respects the sport that we do.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know if Kelly's listening out there, maybe you could address to him, like, I hope that you can digest all of this, and I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I would hope that you can find help for whatever struggles you're having, that this made you feel better. I don't know. I just feel this like sadness now.
I know.
Again, it's hard.
I can see it.
It's really hard because at the end of the day, you go down the thought process of why would you do this, and you
try to rationalize.
It's got to be something.
But again, like that's the thing. Like in his mind, he rationalizes it completely different than we do.
Yeah.
And
maybe he views it differently, and maybe I'm just being a poor sap, but that's just how I think. So.
I can see you kind of, getting a little emotional over it. And it is. It's sad, and you don't want to see it in your sport, and you don't want to see it amongst your friends, really.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we wrap up this one?
Yeah.
If you guys do have any comments for us on this topic, feel free to send them over.
For sure.
We'd love to hear from you.
Email us.
So moving forward for the show, we're going to be tackling other current topics in the trail running world. We might tackle the lotteries next. Mm-hmm. I think that's a pretty good one. There's still lotteries going on. They tend to happen around this time of year, it seems like, between December and January. It seems like almost all of the big lotteries happen. So I think it's maybe is a good time to talk about those. We'd especially, I think, like to dive into Western States, Hard Rock, UTMB as the main ones.
Yeah.
But there's some other ancillary ones too. But those are the highest profile, hardest to get into races. So I think those would be probably the ones that we spend the most time on.
For Joe Schmoes like me who have dreams of running Hard Rock, what are my chances?
They're not good.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it, and it's just a conversation, and that's all it is. And who knows where it'll go. But again, thank you guys for tuning in to the first episode of the Trail Currents podcast. We'd like to thank Run Steep Get High for their support of the show. Again, if you would like to support this show and Run Steep Get High, go to runsteep.com, use TCP, all capitals, 15, number 15, TCP 15, 15% off all orders for a limited time. Anything else?
No, I'm good, Jam.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you and hear you on the next one.
Next one. Nailed it.
Yeah.